Hey there. Okay, here I am with another version of a meditation bead loop, and this one is based off of Mala, so it's going to be 108 beads. So the primary circle of the loop is going to be 100 beads. That's what I have set out here right now. And then I'll have a strand that comes off of it with the remaining 8 beads, as well as there's going to be a tassel that's going to be similar to this one right here. So this tassel will be hanging off the end, and this is the Jasper donut bead that I'm going to be using to make the tassel with. So that's going to come later. For now, I just want to talk about the beads that I'm using. I'm using a mix of Jasper and Tiger's Eye, and I believe these are a Quartz. The label from the craft store wasn't terribly clear as to what that is, besides being stone. Anyway, based on the varying colors that I've got and all of the crystalline little features, I'm going to go with Quartz. Alright, so what I have here, I've got Picture Jasper, Tiger's Eye, another Picture Jasper, Tiger's Eye, Picture Jasper. Each section within the strand has got 10 beads in it, so it's going to be one of these and then 9 of the smaller beads. The cord that I'm going to be using to string them all together is a raw wax linen, so this is its color. And I'm using the raw wax linen because of the tone of the beads that I'm using. And what I'll be doing is, because there are so many beads in this particular piece, and doing knot work to where cord is laying on either side of the bead when there's just a single knot, just looks a little odd. So what I'll be doing this time is I'm going to be doing an overhand knot between each bead, and I will be using an open eye needle to string the beads, because these beads are a little bit more of a challenge to push my wax linen through. It keeps wanting to get caught up on the hollow section of the bead. So just to make it simpler, I'm going to actually use a needle for stringing my beads this time. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with stringing the beads, and where I'm going to start at is my top center. And the reason I'm doing that is so you could see how I'm actually going to go about this process. So I'm going to start with my top center bead and actually pull it all the way to the center of the cord. And then I'm going to do each bead on either side of this one. And as I do, string on each bead. Sorry for going out of frame just then. I'm going to tie an overhand knot just to lock it in. And before I tie the overhand knot on that first one, I want to actually use my Bead Stop tool there so I know things don't get away from me while I'm tying this first knot. So it's just going to be a basic overhand knot. You're just making a loop and pulling your cord through it, and you're pulling it as tight up against the bead as possible. And as you continue and use more cord, there'll be less cord to have to fiddle with on this part. So you're going to make your knot. It's going to be tight because you want it to fit tight against the bead right there. And now I'm going to actually move my needle from this end of the cord to the opposite end of the cord and do the second bead. So you can see how I'm getting this started. So now that I know this is secure, that's not going to slide anywhere, so I can take my bead stop off. So I'm done with that tool. So really the only tools I'm using on this project are my my large eye needle, sometimes my pliers when my needle won't come through so easy, and my bead stop tool. Alright, so these beads are up tight against this center bead right here. The reason I don't have a knot on either side of the center bead is because the hole is very large, and if I tied a knot with this cord next to it, it wouldn't make a difference. So that's why I've done the first two beads on either side of it, just to make sure I've got it secure in place. So again, an overhand knot and pulling everything up tight. Against the bead. Okay, so there's the start of this. So what I'll continue off camera is the stringing of all the rest of the beads, and as I put each bead on, I'll be adding an overhand knot to it, except for when I get to these beads. These won't get an overhand knot after them. They'll just get another bead next to it and the overhand knot on the other side. Alright, so now I've got all the beads strung and the overhand knot tied in between each one of the smaller beads. And now I've gotten to the final bead, and I've pulled the center cord through it from both directions. So we've got the cord coming off the ends of the bead chains, and so that's just pulled through all the way. So that closes our loop, and we're just going to tie an overhand knot here at the end. What I'm doing is I'm twisting the cord first before I tie the overhand knot, just to bring it up closer to the bottom of the final bead of the first 100. This is the bead number 100. Alright, so now our loop is secure. So we have our first 100 beads of the 108 we're going to be stringing on here. And here are the remaining 8 beads that we are going to be adding. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if the wax linen will actually behave itself. I'm going to twist it to make it its own needle and push it through. What this is doing is it's letting us do a double securing of the 2 cords that are coming from both sides of the loop. I'm doing an overhand knot and pulling it up tight to the bottom of my bead. All right, and now the final bead. Pull it up into position and tie it off. Okay, so there it is. There's our 108 bead meditation beads, and we're not done yet. The next thing is going to be attaching our tassel at the end, and for that I'm going to make the tassel off camera and come back and we'll attach the tassel. Alright, so now we're going to attach this, and I'm going to be a bit creative on how we do this. So what I'm going to do is just thread the cords through my bead, through the donut bead, pull them around back on either sides of its original cord, and wrap around, coming back forward and going back through the bead a second time. This is actually going to secure it really nicely to the rest of the meditation beads, and there should not be any issues with it coming loose. Alright, and one thing I am doing on purpose is I'm lining up the strands to where they straddled each other on the front. So now from the back, separating the strands again, wrapping around from the front on either side of the last knot below the last bead. Then I'm going to take it around back and I'm going to actually tie a square knot. And this is a square knot just by its little lonesome, no core section with it. So when you're doing your square knot, the first time you tie, you need to pay attention to which cord is on top. So whichever cord is on top in your knot, that cord needs to be on top the other cord for the second half of your square knot, because when you pull it back through, you want this loop to be up and this loop to be down, and that's what makes it a square knot. And that's going to hold. That's going to be really good and secure. And then to finish it off, what I'll be doing is I'm going to use a tapestry needle, and I'm going to be embedding the ends of the cord into the cord that's inside the bead. So it's basically stitching from one side to the next within the bead to where I'm actually going under two of the strands and coming out the other side. And this is wax linen, so it tends to grab onto itself really well. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to come under the strands on the opposite side. This is where it gets a little tricky. And I'm going to pull it down to where it's really close to the opening. And then take it back again underneath the strands So this is going to really lock it in. It looks like it could be messy, but it's not. See how from the front it's still all neat and tidy, and then at the back all I have to do is now just snip it off, because the cord is really well embedded in the rest of the wax linen, and it really holds on to itself very, very well. And then we're going to change the needle over and do the same for the other side. The great thing about the wax linen is it really holds on to itself nicely. And just trim that off. And there you have it. A mala style meditation beads, 108 beads, and I've attached the beads in a different way than what you traditionally see, because you know, I'm not a traditional girl. Okay, and there we have it. And this will actually be on my Etsy page soon. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I encourage you to make your own. I would like to see what you do with it. So let me know what you think, and please subscribe and like. Thank you. Bye.